Ladies and gents, it's time for an alternative paper review. Of course it is. First up to the Times this morning, who are on day 3 of Badenoch-Gate. Badenoch-Gate. It sounds like a sort of couples retreat for unhappy married couples up in Scotland somewhere, doesn't it? Welcome to Badenoch-Gate, where a man and a woman must stay and reconcile and reckon with the repercussions of what they've done to one another. Which makes Badenoch-Gate both a journo-political term and a metaphor that self-references itself. God, I'm on fire this morning. Anyway, yes, this is the story that's been bubbling up since Sunday, that the Department for Business and Trade, chaired by Kemi Badenoch, told the former head of the post office, somebody has to take the rap for this, and it may as well be you. Then he gave an interview to the Sunday Times in which he said he was told to stall payments, compensation to the people affected by the post office scandal, because it would look bad for the Tories going into the election. She called him a liar, although not in so many words. She actually said it's like really lawyered, really interesting language. She didn't call him an outright liar, because then he'd be like, you call me a liar? Okay, well then let's prove it. Let's show all the receipts, shall we? Instead, she said it was a misrepresentation of the phone call that they shared. Which suggests that there was a phone call. Something was said between them, but that he's just misrepresenting it. Anyway, she went to the House of Commons yesterday and gave a statement. She characterised him as a disgruntled ex-employee with an axe to grind. She said the reason that she sacked him was because he was being investigated for bullying, which itself is quite interesting. Because normally when people are being investigated for bullying, you wait till the outcome of that investigation, and then you either push them to resign or you can sack them. Do you remember when Dominic Raab was being investigated for bullying? Or John Burko was investigated for bullying? After the outcome of those investigations, then they were sacked or pushed to resign. You don't sack someone while it's being looked into. So that just seems weird to me. The other part of the statement that was interesting was she said there's no evidence whatsoever that he was being instructed to delay those payments. Which is even more juicy. It's even more like, because it just smacks of like lawyerdom, doesn't it? Because if I knew that I hadn't asked you to do something dodgy, I would be up there in the house going like, I can categorically say that I didn't tell him. He's a liar. He is lying. I never said that. But if I secretly knew that I had asked him, but there was just no evidence to suggest that right now, then I might well say there's no evidence whatsoever. Right? Do you understand the difference? Right? If she says, I never said it, and then it turns out that she did say it, she's toast. She can't lie to the House. But if it later turns out that there is some evidence to suggest, then she could say, well, that was true at the moment that I said it. Next up, to the Daily Telegraph, guys. Men and women's brains work differently, scientists have proved. To which my response is, yeah, I can see that. You know, I've long suspected, thought, believed that men and women have a different type of brain to one another. You know, women, when I engage with them, they come across as sort of, compassionate, mature, sensible, at times hopeful, optimistic, enthusiastic. Whereas men, I think our brains tend to be more logical, which is why we end up killing ourselves. Finally, to this morning's Sun exclusive with we won £1 million, but my ex is nabbing the lotto. Which is, I know, it's a bit trashy, but let's have a look, shall we? A couple are at war over winning £1 million. Michael Cartledge and Charlotte Cox, 37, bought it at a shop in Spalding, Lincolnshire. Who bought it? Who paid for it? I'm guessing it was her, because then it says she walked out on him weeks later and has been deemed sole winner by the new lottery chiefs. Okay, so let's assume that she paid for it. She gets the £1 million in her bank account, and then in a matter of weeks, she's like, do you know what? I think I'm done with this. And then he's like, well hang on a second. I thought we won the £1 million. Like, can't I have half? And she's like, nope. It's my money. I pay for the ticket, and now I can go off and pursue my dreams. You see? Hopeful and optimistic. I do think it's a fun scenario to look at, because it's an exaggerated example, but it is still an example nonetheless of what happens to some reasonably steady couples once you give them the financial freedom to run away. You know, we often talk about the downsides to the cost of living crisis, don't we? people's finances being crunched and crushed, their children's futures being robbed from them. You know, of course we talk about that, and it's terrible. Obviously it is. But is there a positive side to it? In that, you know, if you gave your wife the financial freedom to fuck off, would you ever see her again? Would your children grow up motherless? So look, I'm just saying, I'm just at the risk of sounding like I'm going off-brand somewhat. Thank you, Tories. Thank you. The party of family values. There is no way to work out how many families you may have kept together.